Go through roll call first. President. Vice President.
Here.
Treasurer. Secretary. Here. Secretarian. We call this meeting for people to do their concerns about the community, about the harassment with some teams, and then the protocol that happened with the children on Large Street almost a month ago. Like they have to go when a couple of kids almost got hit when the sirens wasn't on. And to talk to the regional manager, David Morehouse, and then we'll Supervisor Ross Green should be here after we finish with them, and then we can talk to Supervisor Ross Green. So I'm gonna look it over again, not for the chairs. So I'm gonna have David start off, and he can talk to everybody about some things.
Thank you. Be quiet.
There were a couple of questions that were asked of us, and Tina, you have to help me remember. There are a couple of things. Number one, people ask about the legal process, and sometimes when you show up to court, the unlawful detainer hearing, or after the process, a new charge comes up or a new issue comes up along the way. We try not to let that happen, but that will continue to happen. If it's a rent case that happened back in May, or any other type of cause case that might have happened in June, and something new happens in July or August, that might be introduced later and might be brought up at the settlement hearing. So we'll do our best. I talked to our attorney, Francisco, as much as possible to make sure there aren't any surprises, but we can't guarantee. I mean, again, it's kind of what I've been telling everybody. If you don't do anything wrong, nothing's going to happen. I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line. But in the event of something happened related to you or your family, your children, that comes up in that process, it might be brought up to the settlement hearing as new evidence comes up. So, and you still get a chance. I mean, either your counsel is there, and you still get a chance to respond to it. But that's just the reality of when things happen after the process has already started. And then the second thing that was on the list was about our staff, and some people raised concerns about our staff referring people as gang members. And as I see it, there's no reason for our staff to be talking to you about your kids and accusing them of being gang members. So, bottom line, on our end, it's not really a place where we need to go in the first place. So, I mean, if it happens again, let me know. But I pretty much told the staff that it's not appropriate. It's a law enforcement issue, and if it's documented through the gang injunction, and it comes to our attorney in that capacity, then we'll deal with it. But when we're talking to you in the office and doing your paperwork and dealing with them or a stopped-up toilet, whatever it might be, we don't need to talk about that. Our staff doesn't need to go there. So, again, if it happens again, Tina knows how to get in touch with me. I'm around here as much as I can, so let me know. There are the two questions. I don't really overall, October 1st was kind of a new year for us with the Housing Authority. In the past, the way the public housing operated is that the Housing Authority got a big chunk of money, and that money was spent across all the properties. But in reality, each property, Sunnydale, Alamany, Plaza East, Bernal Dwelling, whatever it might be, each property is called an AMP, an Asset Management Program. So as mandated by HUD from DC, the Housing Authority now has to take whatever chunk of money they get for Plaza East and spend it on Plaza East. Whatever they get for Bernal Dwellings has to go to Bernal Dwellings. Whatever they get for Sunnydale has to go to Sunnydale. Now that's new, because in the past, they could kind of take that money and spend it where they needed it. And they weren't doing anything wrong, that was just the way it was done. You know, this is a new reform that HUD has in place. So on our end, it's going to give us the cash flow we're supposed to have since this place was open. So, you know, finally Plaza East is going to be fully funded, and, you know, we're going to have more ability to do what we need to do at the site, to make the repairs. You know, I'll just be honest with you, right now on our books, since this place opened, it's kind of like, you know, if you were a debtor, you know, on your credit card, we basically have a $330,000 debt right now that we owe that we haven't been able to pay vendors because we haven't had the money to pay. That's a pretty deep hole we're in. So, you know, we kind of piece things together, but that's going to change as of October 1st. The Housing Authority has been very cooperative. I mean, it's kind of a brand new day with that relationship. The new director, Henry Alvarez, has started in July, I think. He's a real kind of charismatic, you know, he just gets things done. He doesn't really wait for explanations. You know, if they owe us money, they pay us the money. Whereas in the past, it might take months and years to get that done. You know, if there's an issue that comes up, you know, we've had a couple of issues here on this property. As soon as they get to Henry, they're pretty much resolved. So it's been much better over the past couple of months and just our ability to get things done. There's a new property manager starting on Monday. Her name is Bridget Colbert. She formerly worked with the Housing Authority on a contract basis. She's worked at Alamany, Double Rock, and Huntersview. So she's got some experience with San Francisco Public Housing. Everyone I've talked to, including a couple of residents who used to live at Alamany and another property with her when she was there, spoke very highly of her. Velma, that manages, get the name of it right over here. Thomas Payne, spoke very highly of her. So, you know, we're excited about her starting, and you know, we apologize if the transition had to happen because KD was taking everything in a great direction, but he went on to bigger and better things, and now she's going to be starting on Monday. So, I mean, other than that, I don't really think I have any new news. You know, we're continuing to try to step up the services at the site. We're working with different programs and trying to build new partnerships. We're also continuing to work with our law enforcement partners because, you know, we're really not going to tolerate the illegal activity at the site. You know, trying to come up with new solutions. I was talking to Tina today, and she made, you know, it was a really interesting observation about Hayes Valley because we were talking about the break-ins, which we know are happening constantly, and the bars, which everybody wants bars on their lower windows. And, you know, I was telling her that Hayes Valley, we don't really have that problem over there. You know, there's still, I mean, you're probably aware of the two groups that hang out on Webster and Rose, Linden and Rose. You know, they're a problem, really, but we don't have the break-in issue. And the observation Tina made is that was kind of the first phase of redevelopment. A lot of families moved back there. It's a lot of families live there. It's more of a community. And, you know, it's true. I mean, people watch out for each other over there at Hayes. And that's why we don't have this kind of issue. And, you know, that's something we really want to try to build back here at Plaza East. It's not going to be easy. But, I mean, our goal is just for everybody to look out for each other, to provide a safe place where you're proud to live. And, you know, hopefully we can work together and just continue moving forward. But, you know, there's going to be some rough patches with the illegal activity, which we're taking strong action against immediately. And we're also doing our best. You know, we work with all those rental assistance agencies and eviction groups and brought all those resources to the table. I spend as much time on the phone with them as I do anybody else and trying to advocate for our residents to get the support they need. So, you know, it's a mix. We're trying to mix it up. It's not always going to feel perfect to you, but, you know, Bridget will be available. I'm available. And again, Tina knows how to get me. So, you know, if you have any questions now, please ask, or otherwise, I'm around.
Open questions.
We have a list of about 7 people, maybe 8. We're down to the 3rd name on the list. So, and when Bridget starts, we're going to start again. I don't want to do it without her. So, we're on name number 3. I'm not sure where you were. Do you know? Number 2? Well, you're at number 2. I mean, Katie did the list. So, if you haven't moved yet, you are number 2.
That's what I'm afraid of, that when Bridget comes in, that we're going to lose focus.
I'll show you the list.
Well, I don't need to see it. I just need to know and have your word that the list will exist and you guys will comply with the list.
Yeah, like I said, I'll show it to you. So if you think we're not, you can check me on it. But it's there, it's right in the office, and I just added somebody yesterday, or actually 2 days ago. So there's only about 7 or 8 names on the list at this point. But just so you know, for the in-house transfers, number one, you have to go, it's almost like you're moving in and moving out. So there's a paperwork process that has to happen. So it's not like we can just say you're in here one day, there the next day, so you have to be patient with us for that. And secondly, if you're in these are all tax credit units. So each of these units has a certain tax credit designation. So we're also going to have to be creative sometime. If you're going from a 40% tax credit unit and you want a 3-bedroom that's a 60% tax credit unit, you may not be eligible. But we'll work with you on that and make sure you're aware of why it does or does not work and help you clearly understand. But that's one of the realities. We can kind of move as long as we have the same balance of percentage of units. We can move them around and be creative, but we just always have to hold to that, otherwise we'll violate our own regulations. Okay? So that's the one reality we're dealing with. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, I have a couple of statements. I think instead of of course, if there's illegal activity and you go for eviction, that's fine. But I think you guys should still notify the head of household, hey, this is what's going on, before you send them some unlawful detainer papers in the mail. Also, I went to court on October 1st. I stressed for 4 months because your KD, super manager, wouldn't take my rent, which I had paid late before, but all of a sudden he wouldn't take my rent. I go to court October 1st. This man tells me, I'm telling everybody, I told him last week on Wednesday, this man tells me to give him information as to what's going on at Plaza East, and I could stay. He would disregard the $5 that I have, and he would let me stay in Plaza East. Then this fool turned around and told me to remove my minor son off my lease. We haven't had any violation, no lease violations, no police, no narcotics, have never came into my unit. He's never been arrested within 15 feet of a permanent Baron Plaza East property. And I just felt that was really freaking wrong that this fool would say some shit like that to me and knowing that I'm going to stay here. He didn't offer me no place to go. He didn't offer me nothing. Just that he would disregard whatever balance that I have, but just to give him information as to what's going on right now. I'm not no San Francisco police or narcotics. I have 2 children. I grew up right here in FILLMORE all my life. What I look like? Shit. I go to work from 8 to 5 o'clock. I don't know what the hell these kids is doing out here, and he want me to give him some information. When I said I didn't have any information, you gonna tell me, oh, I'll see you on Monday on jury trial. I thought that was really wrong. I really did.
Well, just the one thing I do want to address is, as far as, this is, I want everyone to understand this. It doesn't matter if it happens within 15 feet in the unit or any, if someone that's on your lease is arrested, that can result in your lease being violated.
It's arrested on your property.
No.
That's not what your lease says.
That's what the lease says.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
So what you
If they get arrested on
saying?
FILLMORE, they can get evicted from here.
Right. We can go through the lease, but it is reality. So, we'll go through that again, but if anyone wants to sit down with me with the lease and go through it, I'm happy to. But, that's what, that's how the housing authority does it, and that's what we've been told, and that's what we're following,
So what you're saying is, anybody that's on any lease in here, they get arrested anywhere, and they're violating their lease.
if they're on the lease, yeah.
I'm talking about they get arrested halfway across town.
Yeah.
How?
It's part of the lease.
Not in the lease.
It's part of the agreement that you signed that there'll be no criminal activity connected to your unit, and that's technically, if you're on the lease, they're connected
You
to
just
your
said
unit.
to your unit.
To your unit.
To where you live.
Okay, but I just asked you if they get arrested halfway across
No,
town.
if it's connected to your unit, a person
Living on
living
the property.
No. The person's living there, that's a connection. The person that lives there is a connection. And then the crime being committed.
Well, they,
Anywhere.
excuse me,
But
we have a new lease, one at a time.
Housing-
Do we have a new lease?
there is not, from what I understand, we currently use the housing authority lease. We don't have our leases. So,
I've got a lease, and it didn't say anything about somebody that's living with you being arrested across town. They said anybody on your property or illegal activities within your home.
well, we
It
can go
didn't
through
say
it, but
anything
that's,
about being arrested across town.
okay, well, we can look at it again. It's the same lease.
Please do.
The same
I'm
lease.
looking long.
Is that just a felony, or that's not the misdemeanor, right?
I mean, we have discretion.
Well,
So,
I mean, a
it's
misdemeanor
according to
would be a traffic
violation. People are not really being evicted for misdemeanors and things like that. They probably, I mean, first of
The
all,
lease states, does the lease differentiate?
it's a legal activity, if I remember correctly. You guys, it's a legal activity. Yeah, I mean, and just so you know, so far this year, well, since Katie's taken over, no one has actually been evicted from Plaza East. There's not been one single eviction. But a legal activity connected to the leaseholder and the people on the lease. Yeah, I mean, I know it's difficult. I mean, but it's how it was written.
I worked for them for 4 years.
And then you guys implemented a new lease. You didn't tell nobody or nothing. There was no notification. It went from, 8 pages to 22 pages.
And then,
You didn't even tell nobody.
The housing authority implemented that. The housing
You
authority.
guys still should have known
The
about
housing
it.
authority went through the notification. We're an agent of the housing authority.
I know.
So for example, the ACOP, they do all that through their ACOP process. So we're, we feel as that that's a public notice, it's done. I mean, we're not responsible for it. That's what's required under the agreement.
Excuse me, if you're responsible for the leases we sign in here, everyone should have a lease of business.
But you do, you go through every year.
No, we sign 2 or 3 pages.
Yeah.
Let me say something to you. You have to raise your hand or nobody's going to get to talk. I can't see you, so you have to raise your hand or you're not going to be able to speak. You're speaking out of turn. I got him next, okay?
But let me address that. Every person sits down with that. You sign 2 or 3 pages, but you get the entire lease. So, I mean, it's up to you to read it.
No, you guys technically are supposed to go with this over each page and we initial at the bottom at the right-hand corner.
But they are initial.
No, I got whole lease. That's not initial.
But it's your lease. I mean,
I mean, you are right, but technically as a leasing agent, you're supposed to go over each page with that tenant so that they understand and then they initial that page.
So if we do that, we won't hear this ever again.
I mean,
Well, I'm
you
asking.
still got a lot of people
But-
that still got the old lease.
But I'm asking, no one has anyone that's been recertified has a new lease.
I know. I
No,
was just certified in February.
you talking to them, you don't even
I was
know.
certified in January, for February.
You saw,
I don't have the old one.
everyone has it. Whenever the new lease was implemented, everybody has it.
I didn't get it.
No, I didn't.
But then you're not under it. I mean, if you sign the old lease applies to you. Until you sign the new lease,
Okay, so
Yeah,
I
that's
break
fine.
all the laws on the new lease, and I won't be.
no, you'll get evicted if it's a legal activity.
Hey, okay, you know what, bro?
Yeah, sorry, fine.
This 22 pages,
Mhm.
I hadn't seen it. Never. When we moved in here, that was 8 years ago. I had never seen them. I had never seen 14. Now, that's all I got to say.
Okay.
Because they only put down the papers that we supposed to sign. That we can only read, and then we can only sign what we read. Right?
Well, all I can do is, you're telling me they don't, and they'll tell me they do. So all I can say right now is...
I'm not telling you.
No, Clarence, hold on, please.
Okay.
From now on, I'm going to check each lease that's signed, and if every page isn't initialed, I'll personally come back to you and get you initialed. So from now on, when those recertifications are done, if every page isn't initialed, I'm going to come back to you and go through it. Period.
Okay. Are you sure about this? People can get arrested anywhere that's on the lease?
Well, talk to the commander. I mean, he does this for the whole housing authority, and he knows the lease as well.
Okay, is there a certain part of the lease that...
Let me just give you a little background. First, let me introduce myself. Appreciate you inviting me to your meeting. I'm Commander Leroy Lindell. I'm obviously a San Francisco police officer. I'm a commander of police assigned to the housing authority as a liaison between the police department and the housing authority. My job deals with safety, security, and a number of other things, and not only the family dwellings like Plaza East, but also the senior disabled developments. When you're talking about your lease, the lease goes back to the time when Bill Clinton was president. And at that time, his administration looked at how HUD was running housing authority properties and a lot of the violence and crime that was occurring. And he came up with a one-strike policy in regard regards to people being evicted from housing under the premise that it's a privilege to live in housing and not a right. A lot of people are abusing the privilege, thinking it was a right to live in public housing. Everybody in this room agrees that you have just as much right to safety, to security, to peace as anybody that might live in Russian Hill, at the marina, or any other community in this city. So when he brought this mandate forward, he put it down real simple. You have one strike in public housing. If you commit a crime on the property or off the property, and you are tied to a San Francisco Housing Authority property, you are subject to eviction. It doesn't mean that you will be evicted, but it means that you may be. Now let's take a hypothetical. I live here at Plaza East, and I decide to go down and rob the bank at First and Market, and I get caught robbing that bank. You don't have a privilege to come back to this housing property if you're engaging in criminal activity. We don't care where it is. So we at the police department become agents for the HUD and the property managers to enforce the rules. Now certainly you can look at the lease because it is 22 or 23 pages long. There's a lot of things that you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to have to put pit bulls, satellite dishes, water bids, a number of things in those leases that you may not even be aware of. They may not subject you to eviction, but when it comes to eviction and the attitude that Henry Alvarez has, that I'm helping to assist enforce, if you're involved with crimes of violence, if you're involved with weapons, if you're involved with drugs, there is absolutely a zero tolerance because the rest of the community should not have to put up with that. Why do you need to put up with gunshots in your neighborhood and allow that person to come back? Why do you have to put up with somebody that burglarizes other people in your development and be allowed to come back? Why should you be allowed to have somebody from your community that may go out and boost cars and bring the goods back here and be allowed to stay here? It sends the wrong message to your community that we can go out anywhere we want to commit crime and come back here and it can be a safe haven. Don't get it confused. You have just as much right, and you have to empower yourselves to take your community into your hands and you dictate what you want. And the first thing that we, the officers here, want for all of you is safe and secure homes. You should not have to leave Plaza East and worry about whether or not your property is going to be here when you get back. And that's some of the things that are occurring. And everybody in this room may know somebody that might be involved in that kind of activity. We are here for you. This isn't an attack on you as an individual. Just like Dave says, if they can put a stipulation in your rental agreement that says that you can't wear green tennis shoes. As long as you don't wear green tennis shoes, you don't have anything to worry about. So if there are issues in your lease that you have a problem with, and everybody seems to have a problem with the illegal activity, you should be applauding the fact that people that commit crime will be removed from your developments. And that's where it stands. It's not an issue of Dave versus the tenants or the police versus the tenants. It's all of us versus the criminal elements in your community.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I understand. The person have to get convicted.
No. When it's on housing authority property, it's different than my house or Dave's house or anybody else's house. HUD, the housing authority, is dead serious on getting rid of crime in the developments. If you are, let's say for instance, the narcotic officers do a search warrant on a resident in Plaza East and they find some narcotic activity or narcotics or something or another. Wherever that case goes in court, it's a separate issue. The fact that it was in the unit, subject you to eviction. The same thing with weapons. They can care less what happens in the criminal. The fact that it was in your unit.
Yeah, that's all good, Gary. Okay, now, this is an issue that some of the tenants have. Now, they got this gang list. Okay, they got members that's on the gang list that do not stay in this property. The police have had warrants with gang members' names on it and going in other people's houses, and the gang members do not stay there.
Okay, let me explain my theory on what I'm hearing from you. Okay? One of the problems that we have, and this is also in your lease, where it says that people who are not on the lease cannot use somebody else's address.
Right.
So let's take it out of the real world and put it in the hypothetical. You live right across the street at Plaza East. Let's say you live in 123 Buchanan. I know you, and I'm on the gang list. I use your address when I get jammed by the police somewhere and get arrested for something. And then guess what happens? I get hooked up on a narcotics charge. I've given your address. The police write the search warrant because that's the arrest that was given, so on and so forth. And the next thing you know, even though you may not even be aware of it, the party that's using your address has brought trouble back to your unit because they are using A, an housing authority address, and B, a place where they're saying that they reside. What we will do beforehand is try to verify if the person lives there, because we have a list of the tenants.
Right.
He's not on the list, but we go back, well, maybe he's just using it this time. You may go back 4 or 5 incident reports and he's using this. We may look at his driver's license and he's using that same address. There's a belief that he may live there. So oftentimes, it may not be the tenant, but it's the criminal element or the bad guys that are using your address because they don't want law enforcement to know where they really live. It's a problem.
Right, see, but,
It's the same thing with the mail.
okay, but see, now, this issue I'm talking about, the members that's on this list never got caught in none of these people's houses. It's, the police got it on the gang list where they assume these cats did.
It doesn't work that way with us. We can't assume anything and go to a judge and say, you know what, I assume that 1, 2, 3 Buchanan, something's going on, so give me a
Prime
second.
example, with my son, they try to say my son stayed with me, and he's on the gang list, and that's bullshit. Excuse my mouth.
What address they give?
Okay, I got the paper, he never used my address.
To your knowledge.
No, period.
No, you can only speak on your knowledge.
We have the same.
I understand that. But to your knowledge, he never used your,
He
right?
never used my address.
To your knowledge.
Okay.
Well, let me just get back to the officer.
Okay, let me just say one thing real quick.
I have a question for him.
You know, there definitely seems like there's a lack of clarity around the lease issue. I'd be more than happy if you want to hold a meeting to come here and literally like go through the whole lease with everybody. You know, put together a little presentation. I'll make it brief. Won't read it word by word, and we can just sit down and go through it together. More than happy to do that.
Yeah.
There's only about 3 or 4 pages that deal with those things where you can be cited for violations and those things where you can be evicted. And usually, from a police perspective, because we're working with management to try to suppress, eliminate the criminal elements from your community, it's the things that are obvious. People have weapons, ammunition, narcotics paraphernalia, and they're doing things not necessarily known to the leasee on the lease, but maybe to the son or daughter, and then they get caught up in something that was brought to their door. Is it fair to the tenant? Not totally, in my own opinion, but, and this is being preached everywhere, and it was preached to us when we were youngsters. You have to become responsible for yourself and your family. And nobody is going to convince me that not everything that goes on in your house slips past you. Because we have some situations where we know the parents know what's going on, and they tend to turn a blind eye. And then when it comes to the point where you got an eviction notice, the leasee wants to know, how did all this occur? Well, there were 5 or 6 buys out of your premise by somebody else, so on and so forth. It might not be known to you. And here's the one thing, if you don't hear anything else, and I'll sit down and quit preaching. I originally said, and I'll stand by it, that it's a privilege to live in public housing, but you should not be afforded any less service, whether it's through law enforcement or any other community-based organization or any city service. And secondly, because it's a privilege to live in public housing, you have to really understand that if you get evicted from public housing, you are off the books anywhere in the nation for 3 years. You cannot apply for public housing. It's in your lease.
So,
I'm sorry, man.
I understand.
and so going back to the lease issue, again, you know,
Question for him.
if you want to pick a night, you know, Tina, if you could avoid Tuesdays and Wednesdays, because my partner works late, so I always need childcare on those nights, but like a Monday or Thursday, we'll even buy food. We'll pay for our lawyer to come here, so then he can answer the technical questions, and then we can go through the lease. And we'll go through all 22 pages if you want. And, you know, we can do a quick overview, and then do some questions and answers later if people want to stick around. But I'm more than happy to do that. I want you to understand the lease. We're not trying to hide anything.
Okay, so my thing is, we were talking about how housing authority is going to start giving out money for the places, and
Right.
John Hall, $300,000.
Right.
And $300,000, it looks like the place has gotten worse. The interior, everything has gotten worse since I've been here. You know, so my thing is, you know, I know we talked about this before, I think you even came to your manager, that the tenant association, that you would sit down with the tenant association, so we can bring it back to the residents, let us decide, you know, let us have some pick or, you know, some choices of, you know, what's going on, because whoever y'all get these people to do stuff, they're not doing a great job, you know, so I feel that you know, we should be more in contact, you know, tenant association and, you know, with sort of, even when it went down to the park, I feel that the people that have been here, I have been here since day one. And, you know, my carpets is not dirty or anything, but I just felt, you know, because the way the carpet's made, you know, if you do get the entry, you know, in the summer, you leave the windows open, the things get in there and light your kids. And I bought several of them in when the doctor had both of my daughters had been living on the leg, and others were never done. They never offered me no carpet or anything. But the point is that, you know, we had people that's here that's taking care of the property, taking care of everything. And we knew that these rugs wasn't going to really move here. But the people that did take care of the rugs, y'all gave them new carpet, better carpet than the people who take care of their stuff. And I felt that those tenants that have been taking care of their stuff should have been those people that should start getting that stuff for them to take care of. Because if they didn't take care of what was in their apartment at that time, if you looked at somebody else's apartment who's been there the same amount of time and their apartment was good stuff, why would you go and do something to somebody's apartment that they're not taking care of? When
Well, there's a couple reasons. There's a couple reasons for that. First reason is we get inspected, and the inspector comes in and says, this is a housekeeping issue. When HUD inspects, we have to change the carpets. So part of it is the inspection process. When a carpet gets to a certain level, and you know we're scored for that on inspection, we have to address it. Because when HUD does, you know, the inspection just got canceled 4 times. Just so you know, to answer your question about the condition, last year, a couple years ago, we got in the 60s. Last year, I think we got a 65. This last inspection, we scored an 82. And that's a HUD inspection. It was very intense. The inspector was tough. That's the best score this property has gotten in years and years. So when you look at it from their perspective, it's gotten better, and it needs to get better. I'll admit that. The carpets, you know, if they inspect a unit, we get a whole list of things we have to repair. Then we have to write a letter back to them and certify that we repaired all those issues. So that's one of the reasons it's happening. We're going to start going through replacing carpets. Usually carpet replacement hits at the 10-year mark. Is when you start doing that on a property management level. We're going to start looking at it, and you know where it's needed. We're going to take care of it. Whenever we turn over a unit, in the past, when we turned over a unit, we didn't paint and carpet it, which we should have been doing. So we're going to start addressing that. Just so you know, we're $330,000. We owe $330,000 at this point. Once we get to a point where we've paid that off, we will work with you. I guarantee it, and figure out what improvements you want to prioritize and work together to make things better.
And even so, what do the other items do about the carpet? About how many years the carpet? What do the HUD? Because y'all supposed to go by HUD guidance.
No, I mean, that's in the agreement. I mean, basically it's 10 to 15 years, but
Okay,
10 years isn't the
What
one.
about paint? I heard the paint was 25.
No, it's about 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, it is. It seems like a long time, but that's.
I don't know if you could answer it or he could answer it. So how far do a child would have to move away to where that's not effective anymore? Say for instance, if I move my child to Texas and he get in trouble in Texas, that still apply? How far? What's the distance that you got to move your child away that where that don't stick anymore?
San Francisco Housing Authority's policy. So if the kid is moved to Texas, certainly it's not going to trail.
I'm just asking for clarity. Thank you.
But I think he was talking about if the person is on your lease.
Yeah, I know. Even if the person is on your lease and you send your child to Texas, Arizona somewhere, does that still affect you?
And the bottom
I didn't hear.
line is,
Yes, no.
No.
Okay.
The bottom line is the courts decide. You know, we don't decide who to evict. The courts do.
So it's still possible that they might still get evicted, yes or no?
If somebody's son went to Texas and killed somebody, we probably would pursue an eviction on that. Yeah.
So how far can they move away to where you're no longer involved? That law don't stick anymore.
It's not necessarily the distance, it can be the crime. We're not going to let murderers come back to our property.
Well, no, I'm not saying they're coming back. Hear me out.
Oh, well, if you say there's
No return for them, and they're there in another state.
Let me ask you this.
No, no, the first thing is, if they're leaving, you have to take them off the lease. That's your responsibility.
Okay, all
If you don't
right.
take them off the lease,
It still comes back to you. That's what you're saying?
take them off the lease.
Okay.
If someone is leaving here permanently, take them off the lease.
But with them still on the lease, you can still enforce what you're
If we're
enforcing.
just crying, we're not, if someone, boosts a car, it's probably not gonna happen. But if someone does something very serious and for some reason it gets back to us, which is incredibly doubtful, I don't know, Commander.
Yeah, incredibly.
Incredibly doubtful it happened, and someone asks us to take action, we might have to.
But I can tell you one thing that some people do is say that they've sent their son to Texas, and the son is not actually.
Okay, I mean, I bet that. I'm just saying,
Yeah, and you have a valid.
for evidence, right.
We hope you give you a valid. Let me kind of just point on one thing.
Just a minute. Are you finished, Dave?
Anybody
Anybody else?
have?
I'm gonna ask you a question. We gonna get to y'all.
But it has to do with what he just said, so I don't want to lose. And it's only other thing. The only other thing.
One minute.
When Dave talked about this AMP principle, and let's just say, for instance, that the housing authority gives him $500,000 to use. You have to also understand that that $500,000 is also used to fix the cable panels that people are pulling off, things that they're destroying out here. So the sense is that if the community can say enough is enough, you're costing us the new carpet in my unit, this item that I need, because that money has to be spent here. And what I'm saying is there's a lot of things that go on outside of the development where things are damaged. And when it comes to fixing those things have to be fixed for safety purposes, but it's coming out of the money that can be used otherwise in the unit to upgrade things.
Yes, but you saying that, but so what about the inside? I don't have camera in my house. My cable downstairs don't work at all, and they can't do nothing about it because when McCormick and Berry subcontract with Comcast, they went through the walls and stuff. So my cable only worked upstairs, and I'm paying them once a month just to look at cable upstairs. I can't look at TV downstairs on my big TV.
And it may be the issue that can be corrected by
Yeah, but
that.
they can't get
But
the walls.
that's not,
So-
we don't control, you just call Comcast, we don't
But
control.
I know Comcast, they can't do nothing about it. So that's y'all
We don't subcon, they're a vendor like
No,
anybody
no, no,
else.
no, no, no. You don't understand. When we first came here, we did not have cable.
Right.
They tried to get somebody else. We had to, Digital at first. Digital kept on going out. So, McCormick and Berry signed with Comcast to come in and contract with them to put them cables through the people wall.
Comcast does not have exclusive rights, you can go,
Okay, so.
you can go with AT&T
So
or whatever.
my thing is, since y'all got to put that stuff in the wall, they need to come fix my stuff on the bottom floor, but they don't have to do it. I called, and I gave the phone in with the process person and everything, because this goes back from when the property first opened.
But since then, I just signed the agreement, another agreement contract with Comcast. They do not have exclusive rights, we don't control what units they go in.
Okay, but I mean, they did that, they
But
contracted.
that was then, this is now. I mean, that contract is expired.
Okay, so what do y'all
It's a
gonna
brand
do
new contract.
about that stuff that's seven in the wall if they can't even get to it?
We have to get a cable company to come in and
But why
repair
do I have to pay for it when y'all put it in?
it. We didn't put it in, Comcast did.
No.
We did not install it.
McCormick and Berry had them put it in, so people can have cable. So why do I have to pay for something that was promised to us when we first moved here, that we were gonna have cable, and we didn't have cable? I'm a relocation person, I was here from day one, I was here when they tore them down. We didn't have cable when we came back, so that was a big problem. Somehow, they forgot to put it when they did the stuff underground or whatever. So then they tried to this didn't work. So then they got with Comcast and they had to string that stuff all in people's walls. So why do I have to pay them to put something in here when housing authority, whoever contracted with McCormick and Berry, when we had an agreement with the Old Timber Association when we first came here that we were going to have cable.
Well, just so you know, I'll answer your question this way. I will check, but so you know, McCormick Berry had nothing to do with how this property was built. The housing authority designed it, paid for it, and built it.
How many people was at that meeting?
But we came in after the fact, once the plans, we came in at the 11th hour and pretty much everything was done and took over. But I'll check on it and see. But Tina, let me check on it.
Okay, but don't Salazar working from your bid, right? Okay.
We came in after all the papers had been signed.
No,
But I'll check in on that and see.
We haven't even moved out to just Salazar was around telling us all that stuff.
I'll
He's
check
the one
it
that
out.
told us that's when we talked
But
about.
Tina, that was 7 years ago, and I'll do
Yeah,
what
but
I
I'm
can
just
now.
saying, we was on the schedule and I don't feel that I should have to pay for something that should be up in our bed.
We'll see what we can do.
My question, and I actually wrote a letter to KD concerning this issue. 2 years ago, I had my next door neighbor moved out. Well, it wasn't big, I don't know what happened, but my next door neighbor moved out. And my house was infested with bed bugs after my neighbor moved out. Well, a few months ago, at the time when it happened, I came to the office because I called the health department and everything to find out what could I do to get rid of the bed bugs. They told me at that time that that was something that my management had to deal with because I lived in public housing. And it was a privately owned place. It was my house. I would have had to go out and get an exterminator myself to have the bed bugs removed from my unit. But at that point, because I was just so frustrated and just so irritated and I'm scratching and itching, me and my children, I threw everything in my house away. I mean, every single thing. A few months, about maybe 6 months ago, there was a letter passed around that there was a bed bug problem in these particular apartments and that you guys were paying to have extermination done for the bed bug treatment.
Right.
Well, 2 years ago, when I had the issue and I talked to the management about it, they told me that I would have to pay to have my house treated for the bed bugs, which I did. $500 and some odd to have my house exterminated. On top of that, I had to buy all the furniture because everything had to go. I wrote a letter, which should actually be in my file, to KD, asking him, well, since you guys are paying for the bed bug treatments now, that you guys see that it had to be something within the places. It wasn't me personally, it was something within these apartments. Do I get reimbursed for what I paid for the bed bug treatment? He stated to me after I wrote him the letter, no, you don't get reimbursed because it happened 2 years ago and it's over, it's done with.
Well,
And
that's
I personally don't think that that's fair because I can bring bed bugs in my house. If you check my files, I've never had any marks on for my inspection, nothing. My house is spotless at all times. You can walk in my house at any given time and know that I'm not a person that should just have bed bugs all of a sudden in my house. It came from the neighbor that moved from next door to me. Once that house was completely empty, about a week later, all of a sudden me and my family was just scratching and itching all day.
Well, I mean, it was 2 years ago, and if we were responsible for every decision that's made for the last 7 years, I don't even know where we'd start. I mean, where is the limitation? I mean, I would think the bright side of the story is, yes, I don't care if you have a filthy house or the cleanest house, we're going to pay to get the bed bugs exterminated. That's how we do it now. I can't be, I don't really know, I don't even know who the manager was 2 years ago. I wasn't here 2 years ago, but we're doing it differently now. So, I can look into it. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but I'll look into it. But again, it happened 2 years ago, and to hold us responsible for that, now that we're doing it the right way, but I'll look into
I think
it.
it should have been done the right way from the very beginning, as far as something like that. That's a public health issue. I called the health department, and they even told me that that was something that my management would have to do. But then when I went to management about it, management told me that I had to pay for that myself out of my pocket.
Right, but I can't do anything about that now. I mean, when it happened this time, the first thing I did was call the public health department and talk to this guy, Agawi, that's their kind of bed bug specialist. And he gave us the entire rundown, exactly how to do it, who to contract with, what kind of notification to give the residents, and we followed their instructions, to a T. So all I can say is, I apologize for what's happened in the past. I hope to see that the operations have changed considerably, and if these things come up again, you just have to let me know. But we're trying to do better at everything.
Then I have a question. My question is we have these garbage chutes or whatever the case may be. Everybody here empties their garbage. They may tie up, they may not tie the trash.
Yeah.
But once your garbage is in the garbage, and you have these can lookers go into the garbage, they're throwing your trash out, and then the next day, because your trash is on the ground and you know for a fact that you place it in the trash, you get a violation of your lease.
That hasn't happened in a while.
Yes, it happens.
When?
It just happened to me
How long ago?
a couple of weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago that happened?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's not gonna happen anymore, that is the problem. You know, if you talk about where we spend a lot of our money, it's on those trash gates, trying to fix those locks over and over and over again until they get broken. But I'll make sure it doesn't happen again.
All they do is climb over, and whoever the camp people are, they climb over and they do all of the trash like this. That's why they look like they're looking.
I mean, they're doing it sometimes, you know, the guys hanging on the property are breaking them, and we watch it happen, so, but bottom line, you
They
know,
don't go in the garbage can.
unless we see a trash bag like outside of your house that's tied together, we won't do that anymore. That's it.
Okay, I have a suggestion. Okay, you got a new manager, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to have a new manager Monday.
Yeah.
Is there any way with the tenants association and you, that y'all can set up, like a meeting at night in the evening or something, and put out
Yeah.
flyers where the tenants can come meet the new manager?
Yeah, she's already talked about doing that.
Okay,
She
and
wants to.
then on the next thing, maybe the management can meet with the tenants association after that, like once a month, and instead of having all this commotion, the tenants association can get at the manager, you know, and that'll stop a whole lot.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me. Yeah, I don't have any issues with that whatsoever. So, yeah.
At the first, the last person to go to the office.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lucy. Sorry I'm kind late, but I'm just wondering if anybody mentioned any security issue in this area.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it. I mean, you know, the security is tough. I mean, I was talking to Valley earlier today. The break-ins are starting all over again. You know, it reminds me of that time, was it 2 holidays ago, where there's a meeting and some kids were walking down the street with Christmas presents? You know, it's feeling like that again, and it's happening all over the neighborhood, from what I understand. Times are getting tough, and people are getting desperate. So we just tried. I mean, we're experimenting some new things with our own private security to try to do a different type of patrol, because I don't really feel like that's as good as it should be right now. We're working very closely with the police department. I mean, talk to Sergeant Griffin. He probably has to take one of my calls once a day. I'm a thorn in his side at this point. And they've been incredibly responsive. And we're also looking into, you know, different types of systems to secure the units. You know, we tried these stronger screens, but they cut right through them again. So we're going to try to upgrade again. We're looking at other properties around the country to see what they do. But, you know, it's something that I lose sleep over every night. You know, we talk about it all the time. We push it with, you know, the police, we work together closely, our security, we work together closely. We depend on you to some extent, not necessarily to turn people in, but to not let it happen in your unit and not let it happen with your family, and that's all we can ask of you. But we're really working as hard as we can, and, you know, I apologize because I know, you know, a lot of people talk about how scared they are, and it's painful to hear, and we're doing our best to try to address it, but, you know, I know it's not perfect.
What do the security do? I mean, to me, how much do y'all pay me? Y'all wasting your money.
The problem
We're
with the
wasting
security,
the money right now, because, I mean, they're not around, we haven't seen them in months.
Talk about the ones that take the pictures.
Yeah, we haven't seen them in months.
they're around. I mean, I can show you the pictures they take and show you they're around. I mean, they're
Okay,
date
but I mean-
timestamp. Let me explain what's going on. Security right now, what the problem is
Find things for that.
they don't have any control. The biggest part of the problem are predominantly the young men that hang out here, many of whom who don't live here, who are causing problems with the property. The security can't do anything about it. They can ask them to leave. The guys will walk across the street and will post up over there. They can ask them to leave again. The guys will walk down the end of the block and post up there. So they, you know, they don't really have any power to do anything about the element that's causing most of the problems. So we're trying to make it, we're going to refocus our efforts, and
Maybe it should be seen more often.
exactly, we want to get them out of the cars, walking around, and interacting more with residents, because I feel like that's where that could, you know, have a bigger impact. And, you know, let the police do their jobs around moving these guys off the corners, because that's what they do, guys. Our security really doesn't have the jurisdiction over them to do that. But one thing the security does do very effectively is they give us a lot of information that we turn over to the police department that they can use to take action. So, I mean, you don't know what's going on with that end, but there's a lot of useful information. There's pictures and things like that.
So y'all pay them to take pictures, is that what you?
No, we don't take them to take pictures. I mean, they do. I mean, we get reports every day, and I can show you the reports. And on some nights, yeah, they take some pictures. On other nights, they're dealing with cars getting towed. They're dealing with residents that call that report break-ins. They're telling us, you know, where the activity is, and they're trying to move the problem around.
So the police already know.
To some degree, but it's more eyes the better. I mean, it's still here.
But that was, I mean, this to me is just, to me, I mean, the other security did work. They was into force from attacking people, banging on the cars. This security company, I mean, so we have officers that be on the phone. You know, so with Houston and full, y'all keep paying security and still get people houses broken in. That could be something that could be.
So everyone's
saying somewhere else.
They're not.
So if everyone, a majority of the residents of this property would go on the record and say you could not want security, I'll consider it. But I would need a majority of the residents, because a lot of people have thanked us for that security. So, but when we didn't have security for that brief period of time, I came in here and got yelled and screamed at like nobody's business by the same group. So, we do have security that's too much. They do too much, we get yelled and screamed at. If security doesn't do too much, people complain.
So what if we become like, if like, you can find like, you say you have security company. What if it was another, you know, they could find another security company that, you know, somehow, you know, not people, but people my age, a little older, that works for that company, that know some of these young people that get mature and keep these people from, you know, these young men from doing what they do.
That's what the CRN is for. I mean, they're, hey, I'm telling you, that's what they're funded to do. I mean, you're laughing at it.
Everybody has.
Y'all wasting the funds.
Community responsible.
That's all.
I mean, but that's what they're funded to do by the city.
Don't tell her, because she's gonna start.
Okay,
Okay,
Two minutes. In addressing your safety, everybody in this community is the best security that you have. Okay? And nobody's saying that you have to identify yourself. If you see some sort of criminal activity, you can pick up the phone and police will respond and try to arrest the people that are responsible. Secondly, San Francisco Safe, which is an organization that can come into your community, work with you, establish the way that you want security to be in your development, and you then become empowered to neighbors watching neighbors, making sure that people that don't belong in your development, that are coming into your development, that are causing problems, are no longer here. If you look at any community, every community that has minimal crime are those communities where everybody in the community is on the same page. And when everybody says, you know what, it's wrong to break into their place, it's wrong to break into their place, and we're not going to stand up for it anymore, guess what happens with the criminal element? They disappear. One of the things that we're doing, we're issuing stay-away orders for people that come into your development here at Plaza East and are causing problems with dope sales, criminal activity, so on and so forth. And once that person is served with the stay-away order, they cannot trespass on any San Francisco housing authority property in the city. We have tools, but it takes more than the police. It takes the community, the neighbors, the police, and management working together to solve the problem. We can sit here and point fingers at each other all night long. And guess what? The criminal element just laughs. We said they're in there doing what they do, everybody's bitching and moaning, and nothing will happen. But the minute that we set all of our differences aside, we sit down at the table and we say, you know what? This is what we need to do. We're tired of the burglaries. We're tired of the gunshots. We're tired of the crime. And we're going to get involved in taking back our community. With the assistance of law enforcement, with the assistance of management, with the assistance of resources from City Hall, it's being done.
Can I ask you a question?
You sure can.
I want to know, and this is the and I would like you to tell me the truth. If anywhere in the West Addition, and it's all to the West Addition, you target the West Addition, you understand? Okay. Where is it the most breaking occurring?
I don't have those statistics off of the top of my head, but in my opinion, one in any community is too many.
Okay, but I'm just asking, do you have?
Somebody from our burglary detail would be able to answer.
Okay,
I don't have
I'm
those.
just talking about for
Yeah.
this district where you at. I'm talking about the
West
context.
Indies, I understand what you're saying.
Don't you have the most calls that come from Plaza? Do you have a majority calls that come between this block, between
I understand your question.
break-in?
I don't have any independent information as to the question that you're asking.
Okay.
I can tell you this. I can tell you that there's an increase in car break-ins when you have the Japanese festival up on Post Street. I can tell you there are things that go on around here. I can tell you that I've been down there a half dozen times talking to people after their units have been broken into. I've talked to a family who was absolutely terrified because they were in the house when somebody broke into their house. Okay? That shouldn't be allowed. Okay? I'm not going to come here and try to make you believe.
I'm trying to make something. Just to say, but I'm just trying to make it think. Just to say, because I'm just trying to see what you be able to say. Okay, well, I think the majority calls between this area right here.
No, here's what I'm saying.
What I'm trying to tell you, I don't even hear them. What I'm trying to tell you, we have a set of youth that cannot go nowhere.
They can what?
Cannot go nowhere.
Here's what we need to do. We need to quit looking at excuses and come up with solutions.
Oh,
That's what we need to do. Okay?
But I mean, you have.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
But what we need to do is we need to sit down at the table, establish an agenda of those things that are important to you,
Yeah.
and move forward.
Okay, I've been trying to do that for the last 3 years. And I
He has our number. He has our number.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
You're talking about the youth here, we have a set of youth that can't go anywhere. This set can't go anywhere, that set up there can't go
That's
anywhere.
what I'm saying.
Well, okay, they can't do too much about that. So let's move on. This has been discussed already. We know where,
Okay.
if some of them may cross the street. Okay?
Yeah, but we
So let's move on to.
okay, but I was just trying to get them to,
They know.
to know what's going on.
They know.
But everybody acts like they don't know what's going on.
They
But
know.
and then they talk about we have this, we have that. But
And another thing, they can't get involved if the community doesn't get involved. Don't none of us pick up the telephone.
I'll add this to build off that.
okay,
There are numerous parents
okay, so we
and
want to
their
be.
kids running around the block. Whose responsibility is that? Let's get real. The kids, yeah, the parents, but when the kids are putting themselves in prison,
Mine's gonna run amok. Mine's gonna run amok. I'm
Let
not
me just say something. I sent my son to the store, and that police told him, stop my son, y'all beat him up. Yes, y'all did. Y'all know what I'm talking to. And said that he was out of his bounds. What's out of his bounds? Yeah.
good question.
Yeah.
When you mentioned that there's a lot of resources security allowed to us, but we really don't see it.
Who's gonna think? You talking?
Yeah, I understand. You're saying, I mentioned a number of things.
Yeah.
Those are things at the invitation of the community that we can bring in. Say they can come in, they can go to your unit and say, these are the deficiencies that we see in your unit. You may need to strengthen this, you may need to do that. Personal safety issues. They can come in here and address the entire community. They can set up a neighborhood watch. It's whatever the community wants. They show you, they build the roadmap for you to sustain yourself.
Okay, we're gonna get that, who gonna talk? Lieutenant Garrison, who's who? Or you two, Lieutenant? No,
Yeah,
who's
what do
finished?
you want
We wanna talk about I know, we wanna bring this up as far as the kids go. It was like a month, was it a month and a half? There was after, I don't know, they said somebody had robbed somebody or something, they was running around here like crazy. Gang task force, police, they was all down on Golden Gate, flying up and down the street, and I walking down the street, I see one of the gang task force guys come behind Thomas Payne, walked around. Next minute, when I walked up this way, you have 3 police cars coming this way. You have 3 coming that way with no sirens on. We had kids on large streets on bicycles, skateboards, and everything. You had parents sitting outside grabbing their children. Kids could have got hurt. And what was the response to the police officers? The police officers talked about the people here. They were very rude. And another thing is, we have minors. And I understand all our minors are not angels. You know, I'm talking about between the ages of 12 and 15. And when you're an officer and you get out of the car and you can take this back to Gaines Task Force because they're not here, but you have officers that are in y'all blue and that are on Gaines Task Force, when they get out their cars, what's up, fat boy? That's not appropriate. It's not appropriate for them to beat on our kids or to grab them or to call them names, because if I do, CPS is going to be called on me. So who's to be called on y'all when y'all doing that to a minor?
It doesn't matter if you're a minor or no. If you believe that you have been inappropriately treated by the police, that's an issue with the Office of Citizen Complaint.
Right.
They will investigate it, they will do a finding. My message is, we gotta quit pointing fingers at each other and work together. None of this finger pointing about each other. Let me finish as I need you to finish.
But we've been wanting this for 3 or 4 years.
I need to finish just like
Still
you
gotta give them a chance to speak.
As long as
Give
we
them a chance.
point fingers at each other,
Come on.
nothing gets done. You have to understand, and it's real simple. The only difference between chaos in your community and control is going to be a police force. We have to work together. We can't butt heads. We can sit here and listen to war stories all night long. It's not going to resolve the issues that are important to your community. Put our differences aside. Come to the table, create an agenda to move forward, to make Plaza East what it should be, a safe and secure community for everybody.
Okay, so what about those cases?
I just explained to you.
But y'all acting like it's nothing for
Let me
you.
answer that. In this, I'll say this. Now, personally, I'm going down to San Jose to deal with a racial profiling case against Tuskegee. Okay? But what I tell people is this. People confuse the difference of power and authority. The state, when we go to the academy to train, the state gives us the authority to carry a gun, wear a badge, go out and enforce the law. But people, I'm telling you this, these police officers can only do to you what you let them. Okay? Everybody I know has a cell phone. And listen to me. Everybody has a cell phone. Guess what? If an officer's out there doing something, this thing records. Okay? What frustrates me is when I'm hearing 4 years of war stories, when I'm sitting in my office 2 blocks away from here, and this is the first I'm hearing about it, you gotta get tired of letting people kick you in the butt and you're sitting on the grooves. That's first. I'm not saying that all our officers are angels. You go to Safeway and get mistreated by a store clerk, but you're still gonna buy your groceries. Okay? It's time to stop sniveling and whining and do something about it. If something's being mistreated, you got yourself on bail. Okay? That's indisputable evidence, is it? Okay? So when I hear stuff in generalities, when people, I've had officers from other communities come up and say, people are complaining about officers doing this. Well, what officers? They got badges, they got name tags, they got stuff. How come I'm not hearing about it? You all know me. I haven't heard about it, but I hear about it when I get here.
But it's these 2 people, this is
Okay.
the last one.
All right, okay, so I understand it, but I'm saying there are methods for you to make those complaints, and I'll deal with it. I'll bring those officers to the table and find out what the real deal is.
I filled out one of those.
Okay.
But the whole thing about it is, the officers that do the stuff that they do, no, they don't wear a name tag. No, they don't. They don't wear their badge number. No,
Are they in plain clothes?
Yes, they are. Sometimes they in plain clothes, and sometimes they don't. I can't write that. Yes, I'm gonna talk about you right now.
Which officer?
and still had their gun drawn on them. So the ones that are in the community, and you say you try to work with them, or, you know what I'm saying, put stuff aside, or whatever the case may be, they don't respect you. They don't respect you at all. So if you're trying to have something in the community, you can't have nothing in the community, because the officers that are in the community, they treat you wrong, they treat you bad, and you know that. You know
It's nothing other than a job to them, that's all.
Your face. No, y'all rude, y'all rough, y'all did not do people like that.
Now, I will say this. Okay. And I'm saying, we have our sergeants here, our sergeant in charge of the housing unit. We have a lieutenant here that runs our housing unit. We should be able to sit down and inform them. You've got issues. That's, like I said, if I know about that, we should be able to sit down and deal with those issues. Now, I'll give you a perfect example. I'm going to bring up one. Officer Mingle responded to a 911 call a few weeks back. Okay, I happened to respond to, and that was you, with your wife and your son, right? Okay, and I tell people a lot of things that they do not understand. You get a 911 call, and we're responding to any type of domestic issue. Okay, the first thing we need to do is step in there and establish control, because those are some of the most dangerous events going. Officers have been killed responding to domestic violence issues. The first thing we want to do is establish control. And from your own mouth, you even said, when you stepped there to deal with your son, you're trying to deal with him. Well, you felt like he didn't have a right to be there. That was your son. And what did you tell him? Get out of my house.
No, we weren't in my house at first.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Me and my son went in my house. And then that's when the total disrespect came.
Okay, but he
stepped in. Let me deal with my son.
But he can't because hear me out. He's got a call from dispatch from your woman. Okay, so you're telling me he was supposed to turn around and just walk away from that, right?
After the whole incident was solved, he was supposed to get on. Well, everything was solved. My son wasn't arguing or nothing.
Okay, but how was he?
How was he in the house with my son? Wasn't no arguing or nothing.
Yeah. Okay, and what did I tell you about an incident that happened with me? And I'll tell you this real quick. The same exact situation you described. Person told me, we don't need you, it's over with. I walked away. 45 minutes later, I'm in San Francisco General. That same person that told me he didn't need you, I walked away, came in with a butcher knife stuck in their back that woman had cut him with. Now, who's responsible for that? Some people point the finger at me because I didn't handle my business. No officer here is going to put himself in a liability triangle getting sued for not handling what they're supposed to handle. Okay? You're asking a bit much there. Okay? Now I say he can do his job with respect, yes, and I expect him to do that. Okay? But you cannot just step up there and expect him to do that. There's a whole other angle of this that you don't even look at. Okay? And what? Was I supposed to lose my house because that man sit up there with a butcher knife in his back? Because, hey, you're not needed. I'll never do that again. I'll never do that again. And you shouldn't expect that officer to do it. That's not right. Okay, let's be fair if we're going to talk about this.
All right.
Let's be fair.
Okay, this is what I tell me and the group of brothers that I work with. We have made out some incident reports where anytime any incident happened around here, we're giving them to people for them to fill out the badge number, the whole 9 yards. Okay, so we just passed them out this Monday.
All right.
So, we try it that way.
Okay. And then what will you do with them once they're filled out? What's the mechanism?
Take them to the station, and then it's our boss got
So let me say something. I'm going to answer your question. So I work 5 days a week. And let me just tell you what's happened here tonight. The commander has come down here. This is a pretty big deal that the commander has come here. You have somebody from Supervisor Mercarini's office here. You have both the day watch lieutenant, the watch commander, you have the night watch commander, and you have me here, and you have my beat officers. Not all of them are working, but they're here. In answer to your question, I'm there 5 days a week, 9 to 5, for you to call up and say, I had this issue, there's this problem, this is what's going on. If you have an issue with your officers, you can certainly go to the OCC. Anybody can do it. My officers can go to the OCC. If you want to call me at the station, you can call me. You can walk into the station. Everybody knows where I am. My office is right next to the front window. And you can come tell me what's going on. With regards to their being respectful, yes, everybody wants that. What I would offer you, and what I tell lots of people who come and tell me this is what happened with an officer, whether it's a traffic stop, and it's not just in this community, it's in any community, is I listen to what they tell me, and then I listen to what the officer tells me, and I usually tell citizens that imagine for a moment what it's like to be an officer. I think that's what the lieutenant's trying to tell you. It's not like what you see on TV. A lot of times, the way you act and the way you respond, unless they take the time to explain to you why they're doing it, and I'm not saying that they're always right, I'm just saying that
for sure.
a lot of times they do not explain to you why they're doing what they're doing. And then when you talk to me and I talk to them, I can tell you, well, let me tell you what was really on his mind. Let me tell you what he didn't tell you or she didn't tell you was going on. And that's what made them react to the things they're doing. With that said, no officer should be disrespectful to you. No officer should be short or curt or not give you their name or treat you any differently. And a lot of times what happens, and again I'll go back to what Lieutenant Slade is saying, when we come to scenes and when we do things, we tell them, we task them with gain control over that situation. Do not allow it to escalate. Contain that situation. And so it's not till you see the supervisors, till you see people coming in afterwards, that you kind of see, a lot of times, the order is put back in place. Because we haven't been there, no one's been screaming at us, and we haven't been flying down the street to get there to stop whatever's going on. We get there and we go, okay, now how do we resolve it? Who does the report? Who does this? Those are the people who, when you're out there and you see these things, Tina, and you see these things in the nighttime, you see people coming down there, ask to talk to the supervisors, ask to talk to one of the lieutenants. They're there. If it can wait till the next day, come tell me. I'll look the thing up. I know David does this with me all the time. He says, hey, there was an incident, there was something going on. Can you tell me what that was about? I had lunch with the lieutenant yesterday, as a matter of fact. Actually, it was today. And we had the owner of the restaurant right up here on FILLMORE Street say, what happened on Fulton Street, Fulton and Webster? And why were all these officers here? What was going on? It seemed a little odd to me. And I need to hear that, and I need to know that. And if they're flying around and they don't have their lights on and you think it's a safety concern, you need to let me know. And I'll leave you with this, something that we said to someone today, and that is that as managers and as supervisors, if you don't tell us what is going on, we can't do anything about it. Don't assume that we know what's going on. You need to come and tell them. You need to come tell me, hey, this didn't seem right. And that's the only way that I can correct it or make the kind of changes that you need.
Can I tell you something?
So hold on. So Tina, does that answer your question? Is that address the concern you have?
That answers my question, but you say what you say. I followed some officers one afternoon on my way to a concert because they picked up an individual. I went to Georgia Station and I was talked to very rudely. I went to the window.
To Northern, right?
That's right. I went to the window and I was talked to real crazy. And then the other officers came out and asked me, what do you want? Mayor, OC. That's what they call me.
And I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's what the officers call me. And then also, my thing is, what we had going on, when they had that pilot program with the community policemen.
Which program?
The community policemen. When they had first started, they started here. We had those two officers that walked around here. Everybody knew them. We was able to talk to them. Now, every time we turn around, we got different officers. We don't know who's who. The only one I know is this one over here. Because he came around the same time. And he crashed jokes with me and stuff.
And you know what, Tina? And we brought him back just for that.
Yeah, we brought him back. But I'm just saying, we need somebody, and he's around. So
this one, I like him.
Yeah, he's everywhere. So, but we really need that back again because it was working for us, and then it was just snatched. I just snatched it, and then all of a sudden we got new faces. We got new people grabbing on kids. Who is you? Or they're not even knowing who we are. Approaching or something because sometimes it could be something going on inside. I could get a phone call on my phone Tina, what's going on outside? All police, well, where they at? I don't hear nothing in my house. I come outside and find out what's going on, and then I see them arguing with people, and I was like, well, what's the problem? Oh, shut up, just move back, get back, you know, and then, you know, all this, but lately it's been a lot of gun flu. What is that about, you know?
Well, pardon me.
Guns.
Well, let me just say something to you. First about the two officers you're talking about. Both those officers, it was Officer Rogers and Richards.
Yes.
And they liked it out here. They had a great time out here. They went to the school resource unit, and that's where they are, and they're working in the schools. And you're right, they were very popular. They loved being out here. But like the police department, I have to tell you, it is ever changing. We're becoming a very young police department. And so you see these rotations. We've tried to keep some of these officers. Jeff Aloise was another one who left for a while. And we went out of our way to bring Jeff back to this beat, to this unit. Partially because he wanted to, but also because he was a familiar face out here. So I understand exactly what you're saying. We're trying to bring those people out here, but you got to understand that a lot of times these officers say, hey, you know what, this is tough sometimes being out here. And they turn around and they say, hey, you know what, I'm ready to go do something different. With regards to the shootings and the gunplay and the gun pulling, I totally agree with you. I had a shooting incident. Nobody was hit up here at Gary and FILLMORE within the last 3 hours. I had another one down here on Golden Gate. 45 minutes later? I'm out there with all the lieutenants from the station. Every single lieutenant, with the exception of one lieutenant.
You talking about officers?
No, I'm talking about lieutenants. These people. I'm talking about people shooting.
Okay.
And so we are acutely aware of the violence and shootings. And so when you see some of these officers out here and you see this, you keep in mind that there may not be things, again, that you know about. And I don't know how many of you here know about these incidents. But yeah, we're on edge too. We're looking. We want to stop that. And so I hear you. If you have a complaint, if you have a concern, if there is an issue, you can call me. That's why they have me there 5 days a week. That's my job, is to sit there and to take your phone calls and to listen to what it is you have to say. And the first thing I do is I let one of the lieutenants know, hey, there was an issue. I talk to the captain, I let him know, hey, this is what the issue is. And everybody stays in the communication loop.
And then another thing, you know, I know they went to some young lady house down here, and I was called and I went down there, and you know, her kids was there, and so the door was open, and so the officers was in there, and then so they told the little girl, shut up crying before I call CPS on them.
You know, I
mean, but so, I mean, you know, that type of stuff. I mean, you know. I know that you're going in people's houses, you know what I'm saying? But why traumatize the child too? And that's another thing that I feel. I just want some officers around that we can be able to communicate with, because during that time we can communicate with them officers. And then I had a what's it called with him, but then he started getting a little smart, talking crazy to me. And I was.
He does that to me too.
I do that too. Like one night I came out. One night somebody called me when the boy got shot because I was, you know, kind of helping my wife. He got on foster care and stuff. He got shot right here, and somebody called me, and I came on. So who got shot? I was like, no. So I came out. By then they had him in the ambulance. He was good. And then I was like, is you all right? Is you all right? And then he said something smart to me, and I just thought it was inappropriate. You know that, you know, because
Tina,
you know.
Tina, you've known me.
Yeah, I know. But
hold on. You've known me a long time.
Yeah.
Since you've been out there.
Yeah.
You've been in the station.
I know since you came here.
You and I had been to these meetings before.
Yeah.
There was at Carver.
Yeah.
And the same thing the lieutenant said. You can pick that phone up and you can call me. Whether we're going to meetings at Mo Magic, whether we're over there at the African American Cultural Center, I go to those meetings, I sit at those meetings, and if you think something's not right, then you can call me.
Okay, so I want all your numbers. I want all
I'll
your
give you
numbers.
numbers.
All
You already have it. I'll give it to you again.
Give it to my secretary, the phone number again. I don't know
If I could throw one other thing we talked
time.
relationship you're talking about.
Yeah.
This summer, we had a program, called Reviving Baseball in the inner city. Okay? Two of our beat officers, who's Lieutenant Flyers beat officers, the Eagles, would go over there and help coach these kids every evening. Okay? When those kids needed to get to games and they were worried about them going over Hunters Point, I would get one of my officers to drive the van, Sean Rogers. He would pick the kids up, take them over, escort them, and bring them back to make sure they had safe passage back and forth from those games. When I asked my beat officers about, hey, I've got some ideas on doing some follow-up with these kids, I said, how would you feel like maybe about taking them to a 49er game or maybe doing a day at the movies with the kids? And the guy goes, Lieutenant, I'm going to tell you something. He says, what I find frustrating. He said, I spent my time sacrificing my time to make friends with these kids and give them an activity. And then when I'm out here walking the beat, I walk up to say hello to the kid, or the kid comes with me to talk. The mother comes out, snatches the kids, don't be talking to the police. Bam, inside. There has to be some equitable treatment here.
Because
okay, and that's what I'm saying. Huh? No. Not those officers. Those officers were with those kids every day and taking them places and doing things for them. Okay? The point is this. There is a duality here. Folks will sit here and talk to us about what the problems are, but when you get in public, stand with me then and prove yourself. But half the people here don't. They say one thing and they do another. I've tried to establish an Ella Hill Hutch program, okay? And I got it from inside people that know me, okay? I told them, I will stand with you if you're putting together education-based programs to get these kids off the streets and educated. I will put together AAU programs, take them to tournaments, stuff I've been doing my whole career. Some of the same kids from rival neighborhoods have spent the night in my house, and I've taken them to tournaments, okay? They said, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Behind closed doors, it's another story. They don't want to be affiliated with the police, okay? That stuff needs to stop. Just like Lieutenant Lindo said, if we're going to have a working relationship, let's have a working relationship. Don't stand in front of my face and say one thing, and then when we get out here, it's a whole nother thing. And to me, that is part of the problem, that we are holding ourselves back as a community, okay? I'm part of this community. My niece goes right to Buchanan Y, does the drama programs there, okay? Supervisor Referee, see me there. I believe in being a community person, okay? We have to do that. And with that, like I said, yeah, do we have some problems with our officers? Absolutely. They're human beings like anybody else. I got some folks that are a little hard-headed and set in some of their ways. Some things they got to overcome. And that's when we sit down at the table and we work on those things. That if we don't talk about them actively and I don't know about them, I can't work on them.
Okay, can I say something?
All right?
I work with, like, volunteer, my services, a group called Brothers for Charity. Okay, and I'm pretty sure all you officers in here, y'all know me, y'all know my kids. I know I have kids that's hard-headed, okay? But I'm trying, putting 101% in it to get them from being out here in this bullshit. Okay, excuse my mouth. All I'm asking is to give me a chance to talk to you. These kids out here listen to me more than they do anybody around them. That's why I got two groups. I got a group on Mondays and a group on Thursdays. Men in Action, I formed a group. Me and two other guys. When we meet here on Mondays, we go to Y on Thursdays. All I'm asking is for help. Okay? When you have problems with them, I know they talk shit or whatever. When you see me, pull me to the side or whatever, and I'm going to get at them. I know I tell them out here breaking in cars, this and that, but I'm trying to find other things for them to do, get them in school. Okay? We're planning a camping trip to get them up out here at the end of this month. Okay? I take them to the gym on Fridays. On Fridays, you would not see them out here. You go to the Y on Friday, play ball where I can get them all off the corners. I'm trying. There's only 3 of us that's doing this. All I'm asking y'all is to have a little patience and to work with us. Like Lieutenant just said, work with us. My mouth is big. I talk loud, period. That's just how I am. When it comes to my kids, sometimes I don't hear nothing. I got 14 kids, they mine. I know they hard heads, but they listen to me because they mine. And me and him didn't have problems, me and him didn't have problems. And me and him had problems, I'm trying to deal with something on Fillmore Street. Okay, with him him, I'm trying to deal with my son. Okay? They my kids. You gotta expect me to do that. I'm not like these other parents. No matter what y'all think I do or whatever, I don't do it. If I was in the drugs, selling, giving dope, guns out, I wouldn't be out there. You know, all I'm out here doing is trying to help my kids and the rest of these boys. You know?
That's what we're trying to do.
And then another thing.
But I can talk to them better than you can though.
We didn't hear on Monday night.
Same respect.
We didn't hear on
Get the
Monday.
same respect from the kids.
Wait a minute. We didn't hear on Monday night, not last Monday, but was it Monday before last? We were all in here. It was like 25 boys, 25 young men. We all up in here. And at the end, after the end of the guy who did the book and he talked to him, we didn't hear either. So we looking, all the officers is outside. We're like, what's going on out there? The boys in here with us, we all in here. So we walked over there, is there a problem? Yeah. They been back here, that the boys is in the back. There was no one back here.
Let him respond to that. You got some kind
He
of
was
call.
there.
People gonna talk.
You was
Saying
there.
what?
People hanging out.
So we find that.
Where you find
Fighting and
him?
everything else.
Where did you
Where did
see
you
him?
find him when you came?
Always
Where
a
was that?
bunch of kids out there. That's
Out
it.
where?
Out here.
Right here.
Who was in here?
That was in here, we had just opened the door.
We had
They
just
didn't
came
spill
out.
out. Tell me they didn't spill out. Tell me they did not.
Yeah, we had
walked
just
out the
finished.
door.
We had just finished.
We just got a call, we had to check it out. You have to respond,
We had
right?
just finished the meeting.
One of the problems that I'm seeing here is that you're not connected to the beginning of the call, their response. You're getting just a short, myopic view of what's going on. You're sitting there doing something, but you don't know that somebody else has called the police. We don't know what category that call has been given, what priority has been given, and the fact that the officer responded based upon the information in the call. You just see police show up and we're in here doing something. There has to be
No,
open lines.
it wasn't like that. I'm just saying.
In general.
No, this is how I feel, and I'm going to tell you. We had all the young men that hang all around the corners in here that night.
But you're not hearing me, man.
But I'm trying to.
What I'm saying
No, but
is,
We got a phone call. Somebody.
they get a phone call.
Okay, he said he got a phone call.
They got a phone
My
call.
thing was they was looking for him and they didn't know where they was at and they was going to look to find him.
You're trying to out-talk me when I'm trying to explain something to you. If you just take a moment and listen, if you just take a moment and listen, the officers aren't just going to say, let's go over here and see if we can mess up something Tina's doing. They have an obligation. When they get dispatched to a call, they have to respond. Now, the officer says everybody may have been in here at one point, but evidently somebody, and they may have spilled out there innocently, and somebody gave it their own perception and called the police, we still have to respond. When the officers respond, you have to afford them the opportunity to do their job and not stereotype them because they're in here and you're not empowered with all the information that they have. That's what I'm saying. You have to sit down at the table with us. Understand the job that we have to do. The responsible supervisors district to the rest of the city to make sure everybody's safe. We play no favorites with people being safe and secure in their communities. We want everybody to be safe. For the most part, nobody's coming here taking money. We have a very difficult job to do. We know that we're not popular in some communities. But we still have to come to the city and do our job as impartial as we can. Certainly there may be instances that she articulated that somebody may have said that about us. But there are remedies for those. The only way that we get on the same page is to sit down as we are now, work together, to develop strategies to make your community as safe as it can be. It's not going to happen anyway. We keep coming, let me
I
finish.
want to take community, but I don't want officers disrespecting me or disrespecting.
We're going to say that it's a two-way street, but we can't keep pointing fingers. And that's all we're doing. Yes, you are. But that's what you're doing.
Now, one way to answer part of that incident, when you have the young man in here, is if we have an idea of their scheduling events, for example, we have officers that are out here that are patrolling. And we know, we just said, Lieutenant Slade just wanted to let you know, or Lieutenant Fire, that they were having On Monday nights, we're bringing the young men in and we do this, A, B, C, and D. We get a call about some people at this location, we can tell dispatch is just a meeting letting out at this time, you see? But if we don't know, and people send us, then we gotta come here and look. And it's a matter of perception. Why are they coming messing with us when we're just doing this? But somebody called. But if we know what goes on, what's going on here, what after-school programs are going on, because it's also our responsibility to make sure that those events are safe. So if we're out here during that time, these young men don't have to worry about the drama of leaving here and some other fool that they might have beat with out here waiting on them or something, because we're here. But if we don't know, how can we do that? You see what I mean? So we need to interact and work better together. That's all I'm saying.
We'll get Sergeant Griffin a monthly calendar from here on out, so you know what's going on.
I do need some help with my community action group. I do need help. Excuse me.
I'm not going to be very popular for this, but I see a need for it. I want to thank you officers for being here. I came home from church one Sunday and my stove just blew up on fire. If you guys weren't out there, I would be homeless today. The fire department hadn't even responded. Your officers took it upon themselves to go in that kitchen blazing up panic. My little girl ran and got the officers that were sitting over there, and I still have a house to live in. I've developed certain relationships with certain officers here, and I appreciate you, really. I really do. So I want you to know, there might be, some officers that have a bad attitude, so do we sometimes, but overall, you're welcome for me.
Can I leave you with this? Even though we come into your community and we're trying to issue big issues, we all come in here wearing the same blue uniform. Try to look beyond the uniform and try to get to understand the person that's in the uniform. Because I guarantee you, they may be two different people. Okay? Not everybody that wears the uniform thinks the same way. These officers are here because they want to be in your community. And we're saying, get to know us. Don't just say, it's the police, it's the police. Get to know Lieutenant Slade. Get to know Sergeant Griffin. Get to know the officers, Commander Lindo. And we'll have a much stronger